Coming to you straight from the Rio Grande and beyond. Broadcasting to the four corners of the globe. So grab your seat, your coffee, or your sundowner.
Okay, everybody, here we go.
On point, as always. This is Gloves Off. Gloves Off.
Back at you in Gloves Off, and today I have a gentleman from Laredo that's running for school board at Laredo Independent School District, and he's going to tell us his concerns about why he's running. How are we doing, Mr. Valentin?
How are you doing,
Well?
Bob? Doing
Good to
great.
see you.
Thank you for the invitation.
Thank you for coming out and explaining to us everything that's going on. What's going on with LISD to have you say, you know what, I'm going to run? What's occurring?
Sadly, I started advocating. I joined Sergeant Martinez. I'm a former veteran. Sergeant Martinez is also a former veteran and served 3 tours. And he started 10 years ago the Raider competition. And when I looked at the format, I go, man, that's like my reconnaissance scout competition that I competed in. I'll help you because I know it, right? He goes, great, because I need help. And
But before we get further, what is the Raiders competition?
Raider competition is in the JROTC program.
Okay.
And Raiders, what they do is they make a rope bridge simulating that they're crossing a river. They run with weighted rucks for 2 miles. They carry a litter with pretending a man is injured, and you have to take them away from harm's way through a maze of obstacles. And this is like a 10-man team. It could be all 10 guys, all 10 girls, or a co-ed team, right? And I said, man, this is great, because this is the thing. There's a lot of smart kids. They're all smart, but they only have a limited number of scholarships. And you're talking about $20,000, right? And then not everybody can be in athletics, right? So the military saved me from poverty, and it got me free college, okay? And the GI Bill and the Texas GI Fund, because I re-enlisted in the States. And that was my way of going to college for free, not having to put the burden on my parents, not having to have credit,
Sure.
sign my credit away that when I graduate, I can't even qualify to buy a house.
Right, like I did.
Yeah, and then, it just slows you back. And these kids are 97% the poorest of the poor. They're at risk, at-risk kids, single mom or dad, and they just need every help they can get. Now, a lot of people might confuse this and say, well, you want to recruit them into the military. No, because JROTC is a leadership program and a citizenship program.
Absolutely.
And they're going to grow and be leaders.
Let me tell you something there, just to intervene. A lot of people know I'm a Mason.
Right.
And in the Scottish Rite, at one time I was the chief of the Knights of St. Andrew, which is an order. Mm-hmm. And we used to give scholarships through the Scottish Rite
Right.
to the ROTC programs here in Laredo for many times.
That's great.
And I went there for several years. Mm-hmm. I think I did it for 6 years. And what we used to do is call them up, but there was never any reciprocal kind of format from the whatever they call them, sergeants, colonels, whatever they call the person that it was always like they didn't want to do anything about it. But so we used to go, when they give the scholarships, we used to go out there and give out the scholarship. And it was something that was beneficial. I know that they had a competition. They also had some medals that they would give them. And then during competitions, during the parade, in San Antonio they did it, and they did it in some of the other places where they had a competition, the Scottish Rite with all the ROTCs.
Right.
And they would give those winners a bigger scholarship. You know what I'm
Wow,
saying?
that's beautiful.
But here Laredo never wanted to put in there. You know, we worked a lot with Mr. Montemayor that had it for many years. You know,
Right.
and he would always encourage that to happen. So any program, regardless if it's ROTC, football, anything, done the correct way, is going to benefit our youth. That doesn't mean, listen, how many football players are not going to become professional athletes?
Yes. That's the greatest question that we bring up.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So everybody says, hey, if you're going to go into ROTC, you're going to go into the Army. No, not really. But you're going to get a discipline of it. Kind of, you're going to feel what it is.
Yeah.
And that's okay. So continue.
And if you join the military, you have the advantage because you already have 4 years of ROTC experience, makes you a leader, you know all the commands, how to march kids and all this. And what you do, you join the military, you're joining already at a higher grade. And if you continue and go in college, you can become an officer. So the district, even UISD, they spend millions of dollars in athletics, okay? Millions of dollars, and that's good. But what about my JROTC? You know, football has 8 coaches, 60 players, freshman, JV, and varsity, and they have 8 coaches. The JROTC has 120 cadets in Martin, and they only have 2 paid instructors, and LISD only pays half. So they save a lot of money. And they're not doing anything for them.
You know, I understand,
Yeah.
and it's because, let me put it to you this way. Sometimes emotions run different ways,
Yes.
okay? But at the end of the day, veterans like you are, and those that gave their life for our freedom,
Yes.
is the reason why our flag waves, and people do not understand that. So we thank you for your service. But, you know, and those that are out there in the service now, that are out there in different areas, we have to understand that our educational system is failing.
Yes. Big time. The
You know,
testing.
the question that I ask, and I think I'm gonna ask both school districts, is how much is spent on a child that goes into first grade, and that child went through everything that's spent to high school and graduates high school,
Right.
say LISD or UISD, because they have kids that have started here and went all the way over. And they're gonna say, well, some went in athletics, some went on. What is he, how much, and it's gonna be in the millions. I'm gonna tell you why, and we're not producing
Yes.
what we're supposed to be producing.
Yeah.
And there's something wrong with that. I mean, I don't know, we have to go back to our basics.
Yes. And this is the thing, historically, bro, Hispanics, blacks, and the working class have always been sent to the front lines. Always been sent to the front lines, which is the infantry. And I joined the infantry because I wanted to follow in my father's footsteps, right? But that being said, our kids can be in the military, a doctor, a lawyer, an instructor, a veterinarian, a pilot, an officer. You don't have to be in the front lines. You know, you can be an MP, a fireman. There's other options. And that was our reasoning for, hey, I started a booster club because we were not getting the support from LISD. The students, the cadets talked to a board member, Rick Garza, and the sergeant, and Rick Garza says, don't go to the board because the board members are gonna get mad. It's like, why? We're only advocating for our needs. You spend millions of dollars in athletics. We don't have a training facility. We didn't have at the time an obstacle course. We don't have a tower. We don't have restroom, showers, and lockers that are theirs. You know, our kids lose their laptops, they lose their glasses, they lose their shirts, their boots, because this program has gone without the essentials that they need. You know, these kids were dumpster diving tires out so they can tug a tire. You know, it was so sad. They were jumping the fences at Martin as an obstacle. You know, and that's why we started this organization to get the obstacle course. But hey,
was an obstacle course given?
they gave us $120,000 and it was says, take it or leave it. I go, but $120,000 is not enough. We still need restrooms, lockers, and showers. You know, and this thing about, you know, the board members are gonna get mad. We gave them 6 months. I talked with Mr. Tito Garcia. He said, I'll get him in line. 6 months. No hizo nada. He preferred to build long jumps first in the area that we were asking for Border Olympics, because Border Olympics is a good thing, but it benefits the people in the motel hotel industry. And Tito Garcia is the president of La Posada. And guess where the people from Border Olympics go stay? At La Posada.
Well, let me put it to you this way. Now, understanding that you know, hotel, motel, and using that to the benefit of the ROTC programs.
We can do the same.
You all can do the same thing.
Yes.
You all can talk to them, and you can say this. That we have to start that competition. I'm all for competition.
Yes.
Listen, we hold competition. We've held it many times. I hold practically about 6 events, usually
Right.
dealing with martial arts per year. Okay, and when we do that is we bring anywhere between 10 to 30 people from out of town 6 times, because they're usually
Plus the
adults.
families.
Yeah, plus the families.
Yes.
Laredo is lacking in hotels. Laredo is lacking in what to do here as per se.
Yes.
But every time they come in there, guess what? They're here for 2-3 days. That's, if you put the average person per diem that they're gonna eat, it's
Yes.
gonna be per day. It's probably gonna be about $100.
More than
with,
that.
and let's just put it at 100.
Yeah.
And that's breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and that's the gas money that you're running around.
Yeah.
That's per $100.
Yeah.
So now, that's what they're spending. Now, if a father comes in and he brings his wife
Yeah.
and his kids, and they do a workshop here, they come in here, they're leaving in Laredo anywhere between $500 to $1,000 easy,
Yeah.
and that most of it is in the restaurant and hotels.
Exactly.
And people do not understand that. So competition is good for the
Yeah.
community.
We want to bring the Raider competition to Laredo, because all our kids have to go out of town 5-6 hours away, and our parents have never seen their kids compete at that level. We compete with 4A, 5A, and 6A schools, and that day of competition, there's 20 high schools. Each school has 3 or 4 teams. It's huge, bro. I mean, if you go see this, it's just extraordinary what these kids go through. And Martin High School has been on top, even if we didn't have that. But we wanted to give them a tool that would help them, because they have to compete in an obstacle course, and we don't have one in Laredo.
I'm very proud of the board. I'm gonna tell you why. Because they finally gave an award to a teacher that passed away. They named the library for her instead of naming them after people that are still alive and did nothing.
Right.
And that's so I think the board is changing. It's moving to a different view. I think we have good people up in the board, but they have to realize what's going on
Yeah.
to understand what this is.
Yeah, and this is what's going on, bro. They swore an oath to the Constitution, right?
That is a constitution of the United States.
Yeah, no, they swore an oath to the Constitution of the United States, right? And what they did is the administration, the superintendent, lied to our parents and students, and she said, Cadet Command said they frown on having a tower here. And they even said the same thing about an obstacle course, that they frown on it because of liability. And I go, no way. So our coalition called them and said, this is what the superintendent is saying. He goes, no, we don't frown on it. He goes, we're not going to give you the money to build it, but if LISD builds, we'll support it, because every school that has brought that in they have had to make a separate school just for JROTC because the numbers boomed. And that's what exactly is happening in Fort Worth LISD, because they have a tower zip line. And she lied to us, and she said, we can't find liability insurance, okay? And we have a 15-year-old girl, 16-year-old girl, Sarah Aker, call Fort Worth, give me the name of the insurance company. Because LISD claims, the whole team of professionals claims they can't find insurance. Guess how much the insurance costs? $2.65 per student for the entire year. For 120 students at Martin, it's less than $300. And they're lying to us, and we have we can get the insurance. I can pay it off my pocket, but give them the facilities that they need to be successful, just like they are for athletics. All we want is equity. And then what they do, what we did, the kid recorded the superintendent, and a family that was in the group recorded Cadet Command. And one day we showed this lie that was given to the parents and the students in the board meeting, and it proved that they were lying to us. And the board did nothing. They didn't say, let's investigate this. No, they didn't.
Well, number one, I was not present at the board meeting. What you're
Yeah.
telling me is coming from that. I cannot,
Yeah,
verify
I
anything. I'm
understand
just
that.
listening to you all. So, I will contact them, and I will see if one of the board members would like to come out here and
That
explain
would
their
be
side.
awesome.
Because number one, I think this would be an excellent issue for kids in our community in general.
Yes.
And we have to do that, and not only for that, for the sport. Now, let me put it to you this way, and for the folks out there, and for the board members out there listening. Look at the injury rate of basketball players, football players, baseball players, in comparison to boxing, wrestling, and ROTC. Boxing and wrestling, you all don't have the programs here, but other school
Yeah.
districts and
We have
everything do.
shootings.
And what happens is, when some of these kids get out, they cannot even go into the military to defend their country. Why? Because they've already have broken knees.
Yes.
Their knees are gone. They can't move because they've been injured because playing high school football. So a lot of these people were not there. And, and believe me, unfortunately it happens. That's the way it is. So we preparing those that are going to defend us in there. And I hate to say this. Our school districts have failed us.
Big
Period.
time, big time.
So we have to get back into basics. I hate to use this term, which they do. It's called toxic masculinity. They're looking at ROTC program. They say that's toxic masculinity. Even though there's females in it,
Yeah.
there's girls in it, everything in there. You can't shake hands because it's toxic. You can't be a man because it's toxic. You can't do this, but yet they want to be proud for you to tackle somebody else.
Yeah.
Hey, let's get back into reality. Let's look at things right.
There are future veterans. Now, what they did is our kids, when they found out that the superintendent called cadet to badmouth because they wanted to stop the parents from going to the board meeting. And the superintendent called cadet command. She said that the kids are rude, disrespectful, and they're out to humiliate the board members. And that was a lie. And cadet command, we have them recorded telling us that this came from the superintendent. So the next meeting, the kids went and put tape in their mouth, silent protest. And instead of investigating why the silent protesting and investigating the superintendent, what she did to try to stop the parents from going to the board, what they did is they X'd out the instructor, Sergeant Martinez. They X'd me out, which I'm a parent volunteer, bro. I'm a parent volunteer. They need help. They're not gonna hire help like the football has all these coaches. There's only 2 instructors. They decide to take me out, and they decide to take Sergeant Martinez's out. So they're retaliating against the Martin High School program that ironically is advocating for Martin, Nixon, and Cigarroa. We want them to have their own facilities. Now, the other thing is this: if you don't want to build it, then take every single kid to a place that has a tower. Not just 10 kids, because the military pays for 10 kids. You know, this retaliation needs to stop. Guess what happened? They canceled, they put in a puppet in there, CSM Hernandez. And what he did is he canceled out the 0-hour program. It's an after-school program that allows special ed kids from athletics that cannot take JLTC kids that are in the college courses that cannot take JLTC, regular ed kids that cannot take the class. It allows them to take this after-school attendance, and they can compete in that level and alongside JLTC cadets. So by doing that, we used to have 5 teams, 70 kids training after school. They went to competition yesterday with barely a co-ed team, bro. The kids are so upset because we have a lot of kids that go compete. And last year, they also retaliated by canceling our shooting competition. They canceled our first Raider competition in Laredo, because that's the reason we wanted the obstacle course here in Laredo and a tower, so we can bring 25 high schools and their 5 teams each to Laredo, and they canceled it, bro. And they said, no, it's only postponed. They said this in December, January, February. It went all the way to May. They didn't have it. They canceled it, and that's retaliation, bro. You know, and that's why I'm upset. These guys have sworn an oath, and the parents have...
What guys?
The
board?
The board members, they swore an oath.
Do they understand what's going on, or are they getting the second-hand?
No, they know what's going on, y se hacen como que we don't know, and que follow the chain of command. We've already done that. They've been asking for the obstacle course since I was in high school, since '86, okay? And all they've been doing, they bought first a swimming pool, and they rent at the cost of $1.5 million and renovated for $800,000. They have restrooms, locker, showers, and a concession stand. JLTC had none of that. None of that. We still don't have our own restroom, showers, and lockers.
You know that United, the old United, the one that's on Del Mar, the first United High School, had a shooting range underneath.
Yeah, and
Martin has one.
It just got renovated a year and a half ago.
And you know, so I mean, let me put it to you this way. There's a picture that came out, and it's funny. Because believe me, women, I've been led by some great women. My mom, my grandmother, I had great teachers. Nothing against you all, okay? But if you look at the principals, there was a picture of principals and vice principals that went from LISD to some thing function here. And you look at the picture, there must have been like 60-something women, and only 7 guys. There's no equality here. So when you have that
equality
much
or equity,
you know, when you start having that much balance, it's disbalance. That's why you have what you have in walking around. I'm not saying that you need to be stern, and some women are very stern, and believe me, they're very on point. So don't get me wrong, and don't take it in a different format, because most of you do.
Yeah.
That's why kids are misbehaving in class. They say, you know, but you know, we had Snyder. They don't paddle you. You need to be a little bit stern. You have to have a little bit more resistance. So they call a police officer that comes up, and now they want to press charges. You know, now they want to press charges on you. If you fought somebody outside of the school grounds because they were bullying you out there, then they're gonna arrest. I mean, we've gone a 360 turn into nowhere, and it's not going anywhere, and it's just gonna get worse, and we better start going back down to basics.
What really turned me off with the board is they swore an oath, you know, on the Constitution and the First Amendment right of free speech.
Sure.
They squelched that First Amendment right because they're not allowing us to take video and audio to present to the board the proof.
Of course not. Yeah. You know, are the board meetings recorded?
Yes,
and they're public.
They're public meetings.
So it's okay. So if they're public meetings, we should be able to keep it that way.
Our student, and we have it on Facebook, had a recording of the lies and the truth from Cadet Command, and he Bluetooth linked it to his speaker, and the the attorney said you cannot play that because IT said that you're gonna introduce a virus to the microphone.
Who's attorney? What are you talking?
Sigifredo Perez III. So our kids being disrespectful, I don't want to alegar, so I have to get up. It's like you're infringing on the First Amendment right of free speech of my kids. And we have that video on Facebook, okay? And this is the other thing, even on safety. At 2019, I told Tito Garcia, sir, we seriously need to get on the ball and get the police officers and securities trained because they don't know nothing about first aid. That's gonna save a stabbing, that's gonna save a shooting. They're not equipped. They carry a little bag in the back that carries 2 nitrile gloves. That is not gonna help, okay?
Listen. And I know where it's at. I'm gonna put it here. But what occurred, that horrific event that occurred in Uvalde, that is, our prayers go out with the families, and our concerns are very much so, and people are afraid throughout the state of what's going on, and throughout the country. But here, let's talk locally in the state of Texas. The same teachers that taught those police officers, all of them,
Yes.
from the state all the way, they're called TCLOS teachers. They're certified by TCLOS in the state of Texas, and they all have to come through. Some little bit of history for those people out there. They teach the same course too, all of them. They teach it here.
And that's just a basic level.
And that same course is taught to every single police department in the state of Texas. So they were taught, and they spend money on it, okay? So that's the response that we're gonna get if something like that happens. Exactly that response, you're gonna see it, a mirror effect's gonna happen here if, God forbid, it ever happens, or in San Antonio, or it's gonna be the same cluster of idiots running around trying to figure out who's gonna take the next step. And we have some great badges, but that training is
not enough.
no.
In the military, we even had to save our enemies. Look at me. I carry an IFAC with me. And this kid that person can bleed out easily in 2 minutes. Okay? This kid could keep you alive for 2 or 3 hours. I've seen it. Okay, I've seen it happen. And the police officers can carry this in their back.
Listen, there's, I don't want to go into that, but let's just end it here. I think what we need to do is, you're running for school board, correct?
Yes.
So the main reason you're running for the school board is because of your
lack of respect for the kids and the parents.
Okay.
And safety. They don't have the training. They claim that we're trained to go in there and stop the threat.
Listen, the majority of the police officers that are in both school districts couldn't fight their way out of what they were.
And they're out of shape.
And they couldn't fight. Listen, I'm 54 years old. I'm out of shape. I'm not in ring shape, but believe me, I'll put a hurt on you faster than COVID doctors. Okay? Understand what I'm saying?
Exactly.
But that's a different story. And I can look at them. I know who they are. I know who trains them. I know who. And believe me, they can't fight their way out of a wet paper bag.
Yeah.
But they will shut up a parent 10-on-1, 5-on-1, and that abuse of power is very much prevalent. We have to change the course in police. There's so many wrongs going on that we all cannot tackle. And right now, I don't care if the kid is in basket weaving. I don't care if the kid is playing tiddlywinks at UISD or LISD. I don't care if the kid is in basketball, baseball, football, cheerleading, ROTC. We have to give them all the equal chance and opportunity to be the best representative of that school and the best representative of Laredo.
Yes.
And we have to do that. And this boils down to, I didn't think of that idea first.
Yeah.
Okay? Oh, I didn't think of that idea first. Oh, well, guess what? My friend didn't think of that idea first.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to put it in there because my best friend's best friend that's going to buy me signs for my next political agenda did not think of that idea. So are we not going to? No. Enough of that.
Yeah.
Let's come back to reality.
Yes, and no more disrespect to the students.
Absolutely. That's something that I'm against.
We had a board member, Rick Garza, and we have it on video on Facebook.
And Rick Garza is my cousin.
Yeah.
Okay, and he's a man that's he comprehends what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to talk to him, and I'm going to see if we can get him inside, see if we can come into an agreement, because he's a level-headed person.
Yeah.
He's not somebody
and
that's...
I've talked to him, but I was caught surprised when he said that my kids are whiners for showing up at every board meeting.
Well, they better show up
Yeah.
to any board meeting.
Yeah.
You know, listen, people forgot there was a city called Crystal City in the state of Texas. And it started a movement,
La
like all
Raza.
movement, La Raza Unida.
Yes, sir.
And it was a young girl, which I met her, she was, now she's a woman. She's a very good individual. And she was not allowed to be part of the cheerleading because she was Mexicana.
And we have
Okay.
that going on right now.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because she was Mexicana, no, Mexican Mexican American, because she
Yeah.
wasn't a Mexican national. She was of Mexican American descent, a Latina.
Yeah,
She was not allowed to go inside, so everybody protested and walked out.
yeah.
Listen, that can happen here again, and I'm not saying people should revolt or go against anything, but people need to do peaceful protests. That's our
Right.
God-given right. And
Freedom of assembly.
we elect people to go out there. We're not your subjects.
Yeah.
Understand that we are not your subjects. We are your constituents. You're representing us.
Exactly.
So think of the whole entity that's going in there, and that's where we're coming in there.
Yeah.
You know, the mafia will do a better job in running all the municipalities that we have here.
Mhm.
Why? Because they understand respect.
Respect.
We have elected people that come into light
Mhm.
saying, we want to do this, we want to do this, we're going to change this because I love my community. Once they go inside, they flip.
Yeah.
And they forget what they're about, or they're in there for some other reason, or they lie to us. False promises, no more.
No more. And I have to make this very clear about safety also. They use the security guards, the police officers, and the custodians to help out to work in the Border Olympics. And that's okay. What's wrong is that they're not paying them. They give them comp time. And when do they take comp time, the police and the security? When they're supposed to be working in school, taking care of our kids. Yeah.
I don't know about that, so I have you know,
but,
so.
But I know everything I'm telling you is fact. So if they're gonna use them for Border Olympics, we're not a charity. They need to pay them so our police officers and securities could be working full time in school when they need to be to keep our kids safe. And bottom line, that's a mistake. It's a mistake not to have a kit to save the children's life, to stop them from bleeding to death. Because a lot of the kids in Uvalde could have survived if somebody had these kids inside there. This disrespect for these kids, it has got to stop. They have a First Amendment right for free speech, and they need to let them talk.
Elections is around the way, folks. Go out there and research each and every candidate. Look and see why people are running. What is the reasoning behind it? Because sometimes people can be led astray. You can go into a group and find out that a group, instead of you thought you were doing the right, ends up being that they were doing the wrong, and you're caught up in the mix, and you can come out of that group.
Yes.
That's what happened with you with Art Laredo.
Yeah.
So you come out of that group and you're trying to do something right. That is commendable.
Our people need to rise up.
No, not rise up. We just have to do what's right.
Yeah.
Period. Across the board. There's no segregation. There's no let's go out there and do it right. None of that. Let's go out there peacefully and come out. That's why you have school boards. But the school board meetings are now being held as a parent comes up and says something, the parent is shut down, and it's going across not only Texas, it's going across the nation.
Yeah.
It's what they have. That's what's happening. And unfortunately, that's what's going on. And do I trust the school boards? Do I trust that? I think they're good people. Do I trust the safety of our kids? No. Do I believe we should give more attention to our kids in education and forget about tests? Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, we have to stop. There's a lot of things going on that I think we need to everybody needs to sit down and say, you know what's going to happen?
Yeah.
We need to get back to basics.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
So, when's early vote?
I believe it's October the 22nd, and then voting day is November the 8th. But I encourage everybody to vote. Whether you're voting for me or not, vote. Because it's your right. And a lot of people died for that. A lot of veterans died for that. And, sadly, a lot of the parents say, that's why I don't vote, because they always do what they want. No, that's why they're empowered, because you guys are not voting. People need to vote.
People need to come out. Listen, this election, in many different angles, is probably the most important election in Laredo's history.
Yes.
And regardless of whether you're a Republican or a Democrat, go out there and do what your community needs in the right way.
Yes.
There's a lot of grifters out there. There's a lot of people up there, opportunists, that are jumping on board saying, I'm here for the community. Believe me, look through the falsities and get behind the people that are actually doing something.
Show up to the board and fight for my kids. Fight for everything that every kid needs, And special ed has needs, We need people to rise up for that as well.
But there has to be a compromise from everybody, and we can't do that because we've seen a lot of activist groups that don't compromise, and they cause more damage in the future than they did. Okay, so we need to sit down and start compromising. If this we're going to do it over here, let's get it done. You know what? If it's going to happen, let's do it. If you can't use this field over here, but you wanted this other field over here, but they say this is where we can build it, let's build it. Let's get it done.
Yeah.
Understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I agree on that compromise. Hell, we've been asking to use Shirley Field so we can run up the stairs. It hasn't happened yet. It hasn't happened. My kids are not allowed to use Shirley Field Stadium to run up down the stairs. They're right there, and they can't use them.
Is Shirley Stadium,
Shirley
is
Field.
it part of LISD?
It's part of LISD, but they took it away from Martin, and they made it a district field where Martin, Nixon,
And there anybody else can play it?
Yes.
Okay.
But my Martin kids that live there cannot use it to run up the stairs.
And that's coming from who?
That's coming from the whole chain of command, from the principal all the way up. They haven't been able to tell the right hand, hey, you can use Shirley Field. It's like,
that people, I don't know. I mean,
tienen más orgullo que hacer lo que deben de hacer, que es lo bien para los estudiantes.
we need to get back down to basics. Let's take care of the kids. If you went in there if you became a board member, you became an educator, and well, there's many reasons, right? But if you became a board member because you wanted to give back to your school that raised you, that gave you, give back to the community, that's one thing. It's honorable. But if you went back into the thing and became a board member because of ego and because I can get my buddy a air-conditioned job in the pavement field and this other stuff, it's a different story. We need to get rid of me. And we're dealing our government in all levels is looking more like a mob, and I'm talking about the mafia, the way they act, than anything else. The way you look at it, the way they go, and the way they act. And I've said this for many years, and people, they'll retaliate against you. I've seen it. So when I hear stories like this, folks, I've had that happen to me before for standing up for boxers. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I moved back, but that's a different story. Some of you know about that, and some of you don't. But one day we'll get to that one. But folks, you all have a great week. I'm glad you came out.
Thank you.
I'm glad you're doing that, and voting is essential this upcoming November. It's going to be the most important election in radio history, period, in all different angles. Look and find out who's there, because you can vote in for somebody that can have a smile, but remember one thing, and I always say this: the devil was an angel before he was a devil. So understand, everybody, where everybody's at. Okay? Till next time, much peace.
Thank you.
There's a place, a school, an institution where a professor resides. One that for the past 30 years has traveled the world teaching others. A pioneer in America of the fighting science of savate. One who codified the sports of this fighting style. One who has produced clubs, champions, and continues to develop. Listen to work.
My name is Jose Salazar, and I'm a student here at Buitrón Academy, and I take French savate. I started wanting to get into shape and making sure that I could defend myself, I think which almost every practitioner of martial arts wants to do. But what I found special about Buitrón Academy and French savate is that Professor Paul Buitrón is a world-renowned, world-traveled guy who's been around, who's extremely knowledgeable. He's been taught, in France. He's learned in France. He's taught all over the world in many other countries, and he also offers Kempo and Capoeira. So he's a very well-rounded martial artist. And what we also have here is that I like is we also have a lot of camaraderie. The guys that are here to help each other. They're not here to beat each other up. So that's what it gives me. It gives me a sense of confidence, a sense that I'm in shape. I stay a little fit. I keep up with the young guys. And it's something that I really enjoy, and having the added plus that you have a professor like Paul Buitrón is definitely an added benefit. It's something that I would recommend to anybody who's interested in taking the martial arts. French savate rocks, and Professor Paul, thank you for everything.
Of Professor Buitrón. Come train at the best kept secret of Laredo. Buitrón Academy, 956-401-4868, savate.biz.